Mia Madre, which is the new film by Nanni Moretti, who made Dear Diary and The Sun's Room and Il Chiamano and We Have a Pope. And I have to say that for me, I think this is arguably his best film. It's about, his film says, my mother, and it's a fictional story, but it's obviously inspired by, real events that happened to him whilst he was making We Have a Pope. His own mother was ailing and unwell and dying. And the story here centres on Margherita Bai's character, Margherita, who is a filmmaker, who is attempting to put together this film about the sort of the dignity of industrial action, about a strike. And while she's doing this, she is dealing with the fact that firstly, she feels estranged from her teenage daughter who's gone through heartbreak, which she hasn't told her about. But more importantly, her mother is ailing and unwell in prison, and she is completely torn and racked about how to deal with this. Meanwhile, the brother, played incidentally by Nanni Moretti, I mean, you'd think that if this was to be autobiographical, Nanni Moretti would actually be the film director, and there is some sense that that character of Margherita is perhaps Nanni Moretti, but he's the brother who has basically taken a leave of absence from work in order to tend to his mother. And what the film does is it juggles these three elements: work, life, home and hospital. And it does it, I have to say, terrifically well. On the one hand, it's fantastic central performance. The role of Margherita is played beautifully, so well nuanced. But what's great about it is that for something which is really about, loss, I mean, he's dealt with these things before. When you look at Dear Diary, that was about his brush with cancer. You look at The Sun's Room, that's about parental bereavement and grieving. You look at this, it's about the anxiety and the heartbreak of the potential of losing a parent. But at the same time, she's having to keep her work going. She's having to go to work. And there is comedy. There is real comedy, real laugh-out-loud comedy. Bear in mind, Nanni Moretti is constantly referred to as the Italian Woody Allen, which then people think means, oh, well, in that case, everything's comedy. But if you think about Woody Allen's films, a good third of them are just serious, intense dramas with no comedy in them at all. So in the case of this, the comedy comes from the character played by John Turturro, Barry Huggins, who is this Italian-American film actor, fading, who's beyond his prime, who's come to star in this movie that she's making, and is a complete nightmare. Constantly talking about when he was working with Kubrick and how much Stanley Kubrick loved him and how great it was working with Stanley Kubrick. Somebody said, I thought I'd seen every Kubrick film. Which one's he in? Oh, he's not actually in one. He's not actually in one. There's a lot of stories about him turning up and sitting around for 6 weeks without ever being in a Stanley Kubrick film. Also, he can't speak Italian. He can't do the dialogue, which he's meant to be learning phonetically. He can't remember the dialogue. More importantly, he can't act and drive at the same time, or even perhaps separately. So whilst all this stuff is going on one side, there is the slow trauma of dealing with the decline of a parent. And when Moretti was talking about this, when this played at Cannes, it got a huge standing ovation. Nowadays, they time the standing ovations. I read somewhere, I wasn't at Cannes, I read somewhere that the standing ovation was 7 minutes long, and I can understand why. What it manages to do is to be a really serious, proper drama about great defining moments in family life, and about loss and about bereavement and about illness, but also about work and about life and about balancing those two things with this very, very strong element of comedy all the way through. And very good use of music, incidentally, as well. And it's a film which felt for me, and I say this is the highest praise, it's a very humanist film. It is a film about people that likes the people that it's dealing with, that is sympathetic, which is empathetic. It's a film which really makes you feel that these characters are cared for, these characters are real, these characters are three-dimensional. I mean, there is laughter, there is tears, there is sadness, joy, hope, reconciliation, all those things. Moretti said that when he was making it, he deliberately, or he avoided watching Haneke's Amour, which I can understand. But he also said he went back and watched Woody Allen's Another Woman, and I was really surprised. I thought the film was going to be fairly lightweight because I'd heard some sort of fairly average responses to it, but I liked it very much. And for me, actually, I have to say it's the film of Moretti's that I have found the richest and most rewarding.